and welcome back to the show. Thank y'all for being here. Today, I have my good friend Tina Marx with us. She's a certified holistic life coach, ordained metaphysical minister with a master's degree in metaphysical counseling, and she's received her second year Science of Mind certification. Girl, you're amazing. You have been studying and practicing the teachings of metaphysics, spirituality, and Eastern philosophies for like 2 decades. And we've talked for a while, and I know that you are like slammed, have 40 sessions with clients at least a week. You're coaching and helping so many people. So I just appreciate you taking the time to be here with us to share your wisdom. And you are the author of a couple books. I just finished reading your book, The Domino Effect, Fear versus Faith, 9 Principles for Resurfacing in Your Own Life. Girl, I love this book because number one, it was easy for me to read because of the way you've outlined it, but also we connected instantly when we first met, but I think one of the reasons is we grew up so much alike. So thanks for being here. And can you tell us a little bit about you and how you grew up and how that really, I think, inspired all that you do today and teach other people?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. It's absolutely my pleasure. And I would always make time for you. So, yes, it's funny because when we first met, I did say, and this is before you read the book. It's when I had you on my show and I had read your book and I was like, wow, we share a lot of similarities. And at that point, you hadn't read my book. So it was like, you're kind of going on my word, but now you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And in many ways, we grew up differently. But, we had like father issues. I read about it in my book. And I was not, sexually abused by my father, but I was emotionally abused by my father. And, he would hit me. I would never like put me in the hospital or anything like that, but it was more of the emotional abuse. And what I write in that book and what I really, really want people to understand is that, a lot of people think if you have money, okay, if you're raised with money or you look a certain way or, that your problems disappear. And I write that in the intro of my book is that, I had everything that, a person would want in regards to material things. I mean, I grew up on a private golf course. I had a tennis court in my backyard. I I had private tennis lessons and horseback riding and dance lessons. I mean, seriously, tennis camp every year, private schools, all of that. But it didn't ever make me feel any less alone or afraid because, my father, nothing was ever good enough. And I just felt stupid and scared and unwanted, like all the time. And, so that's why I really felt compelled to write the book. And I even say in the book, when I was writing the book, I didn't think I was writing a book. I was just heavily journaling and getting things out, which I have found in my life just to be so cathartic. I mean, seriously, it's changed my life. And I slipped away from that after writing that book for many, many years. And now I'm back on track. Like every day, it's funny. I didn't do it this weekend. I'm like, oh, it's the weekend. And I do feel a little bit off. I mean, I got back to it this morning, but I'm telling you, just even a day or two, it's almost like my meditation, because I've got to be honest with you, I don't meditate every day. I'd like to think I do, and I tell everybody else to do it because I know it's a great way to connecting the spirit and yourself and your subconscious mind. But my way of doing that is really journaling.
Well, I love that. And it is cathartic. And I really encourage everyone and all of my clients to write it out. And, I say write it out, even if it's something that you don't want, if you think somebody's going to find, I just had a session with a young girl and I could tell she was like, didn't want her mom going through her journal or her diary. And I said, well, write it out and sloppy where no one else could read it. Maybe you can't even read it later, but there's something about getting the thoughts from your head and getting, pen to paper that's very healing. And it was the same experience for me when I wrote my book. I thought that I had dealt with a lot of childhood traumas, and I did not realize until I started writing my book that, oh, wow, I really haven't dealt with this as much or healed from it as much as I thought that I had. And I always think about, it's sometimes pressure as a mom, because I want to raise my children knowing that they can come to me and talk about anything, feeling loved and feeling safe and secure, especially now with what's going on in the world. And it's hard because I know things that happened when I was a kid affected me all up until now, until we peel those layers back and heal that.
Yeah.
And I was, the relationship you had with your mom, the loving relationship, and then the fear relationship or not good enough relationship that you had with your dad, I so related with that. Your mother said something you wrote in the book. It says, your mother said, life is change. If you're feeling stuck in your life, chances are you probably need some change.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us feel stuck right now. A lot of us, I've got people that are even, working really hard and they're like, oh, I can't sustain this. And I have some people that are just bored out of their minds that I work with. But a lot of people feel stuck. How do you get unstuck? What would you suggest for someone to do?
Well, first thing, before I forget, I want to go back to the person that you're coaching who said that they didn't want their mom to read that their diary. Well, my dad found my diary in high school, and not only did he read it, he Xeroxed it and made a copy. Okay, so I for many years did not um, write in my journal. So now what I do to this day, now I live with my 16-year-old son who has no interest in reading my diary, but I still, for me to feel safe after I write it, I tear out the pages and I tear them up and they either go in the trash or they go in the toilet. So it's really because I never liked, I don't go back and read it anyway. Right. So it's all, like you said, about getting it out. So, and
That is
sometimes,
such a good tip. But with this young girl, she actually is a cancer survivor. She's so brave, and she's got a lot of stuff going on. But I told her, I said, you never know. My journal became part of my book. There are
mhm,
actually pages from my journal in my book. But I totally get that where
yeah,
I had an ex-boyfriend read my journal. And after that, I didn't write in my journal for
yeah,
years. And I let that stop me from writing in my journal. So I love that you say, write in it and then tear it up and throw it
throw it
away,
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if she thinks it may turn into a book, then you know what, like you said, whether it's messy handwriting or like for somebody's name, you can just put the first letter. You know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know your own language that somebody else isn't going to know, or just in broken sentences. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. So far as getting unstuck, okay. For me, I believe in the ebb and the flow, and I think we're really too hard on ourselves sometimes. When things are just going, they're just snapping right into place, right? It feels so good. It feels like we're moving forward, and now it's finally happening, right? And then all of a sudden, it feels like everything just stops, right? I mean, as you and I were chatting before we got on, and I said last week, it was just like, hiring somebody, firing somebody, rehired them over the weekend. I feel like everything's falling through the cracks, but that's not being stuck. But getting unstuck in regards to the ebb and the flow, sometimes you just need to kind of go inward and ask the universe or God. I mean, that's really what's changed my life in the last couple of months. I mean, I have absolutely surrendered myself to God, the universe. I mean, Dr. Aaron and I were talking last week about the word God, and I was saying, it's been very difficult for me to get that word out of my mouth because of my judgment on that word, of other people's judgment on that word. So, it's, for everybody listening, it's not necessarily in a religious connotation. I just believe that there is an energy, a power greater than us,
Hmm.
um, that we work in unison with, and really it's this divine intelligence that really, is the greatest power there is. And so I've surrendered myself to that. So if I'm feeling stuck, I turn it over. I say, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to say, and to whom? And Gabby Bernstein actually is the one who gave me that prayer. And I say that in the morning, so if you just kind of focus on being of service to other people and getting outside of yourself, I think that's one of the fastest ways to get unstuck. And also being out in nature.
Yeah,
Really,
for
really, really
sure.
helps.
And it's so funny. We were talking about Dr. Aaron, and I said that we finally had some girl time and got to hang out on Saturday. And what I believe in a higher power too. I believe in God. And that is, I had to surrender, and I asked God to come
Yes, you did.
before every interview, before any time I step on stage, before I work with a client. I always ask God to come in and speak through me.
Mhm.
What am turning it over? I tried to do it on my own, and it just didn't work. I needed to believe that there was something bigger than me that was
Yes.
going to see me through the hard times. And we were just talking about, when I was with Dr. Aaron, I said, yeah, and being in nature is where I connect most with God, which is so different from how I grew up, where I went to church every Sunday. But
Mhm.
that didn't feel I didn't feel as connected as I do when I just go in nature. And so, yeah, whether you call it God, universe, whatever you call it, I do believe that that is what I do, turn it over. So I think that's such great advice. So many people are in fear right now, and you
Mhm.
talk a lot about faith versus fear. But
Mhm.
how do you choose that faith to keep moving? How do you get out of the fear?
Well, kind of what's the option? The option is, I like after I wrote that book, I went to an even scarier place, it was about 3 years ago. For 2 full years, everything was taken away from me. God just took everything away from me. And now looking back, I understand why. Because it was like I did not feel good enough. I did not feel capable. I did not feel deserving. Right. And so it was like God, the universe, whatever you want to say, said, I'm going to show you how capable you really are. I'm going to show you how worthy you really are. I'm going to show you how deserving you really are. And I was faced with that question, Amberly, like the minute I opened my eyes, I was in terror. And there was just a voice inside of me that said, just keep going. First of all, I have my son. Honestly, if it weren't for my son, and I'm just going to be really transparent, I don't know what would have happened to me. I don't
Mhm.
know if I would have had the courage and the strength to keep moving forward, because it was such a dark time for me. I mean, talk about anxious. The only time I was at peace was when I was asleep. And the minute that I opened my eyes, it was just terror and fright. And so again, I have these principles in the book, and if it all starts with remembering who you are, we forget. Okay, so as I say, any child that comes into the world, okay, they know exactly who they are. They're confident. They're joyful.
Mhm.
It's what I describe as our true nature.
Mhm.
Okay. And that is what we're all, whether we believe it or not, we're all trying to get back to that place, because that is the only way that life is really worth living, is having that kind of nature and attitude towards life.
Mhm.
Right. Because when we get older, it's just kind of everything just starts piling on, and you can't do this. And I talk about the ego mind and the conditioned mind, and the faith-based mindset, or the ego mind. And just like my mom and my dad in my book, and when I wrote that page, I was like, it was just a aha moment, because my father was the person saying nothing was ever good enough. You can't do this. Who do you think you are? That's our ego mind, that, or the devil, whatever you want to call it. And then there was my mom saying, oh God, you're so good at so many things, it must be hard for you to choose. And that's your
Yeah.
faith-based mindset or your God mindset. So it's like, which one are you going to listen to? You have to first of all become aware that this
Mhm.
is going on. There's going to be a war in your head, and it's always going to be there because we're human beings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever one you feed becomes stronger and becomes louder. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're feeding and buying into the negative self-limiting beliefs, that's going to get stronger, and that's going to and that I've been there. I was there most of my life. So the recognition and the awareness is the first step, and then, taking steps like journaling, like affirmations, like gratitude. The more you're grateful for, the more you are to be grateful for. And I just shared this on my Instagram, and it's something that has just worked so well for me, because I was the type of, because my mind can go back to that
Mm-hmm.
place very easily, because that was more ingrained in me than not, right? So like the
Yeah,
minute
and I think that it's easier, people can, you can hear all these nice compliments, or talking about Instagram, you can have all these great comments on your feed and get one negative comment, and that's the
Yep.
one that'll stick, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. Well, and it's hard because I feel like we can hear all these nice things, but those negative ones want to stick to us like Velcro.
Yeah. Until we say no more, I'm not going to have that. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I do, Amberly, the minute I open my eyes now, I started this about a month and a half ago. I just started consciously said, I love my life. I love my life. Right. And so whatever you say, your mind goes to attach and make sure that that comes forward in your life. Right. Well, now I kid you not, the minute I open my eyes, whether I wake up in the middle of the night or I wake up in the morning when, for the day, the first thought in my head is, I love my life. I love my life, because now I've reprogrammed,
Mm-hmm.
and my day goes that way. It searches for ways for me to love my life. And it's
That's
not Pollyanna.
powerful.
It
That's powerful.
is.
I've changed something as well. I've changed a couple of things. One thing I've changed is, instead of waking up and saying, oh, I have to do this, I say, I get to do this.
Totally.
And it just changes, like, because it puts you in a place of, I am grateful that I get to do so many things, instead of saying I have to do something, I get to do something. That changed. And another thing that changed for me is, I used to say, um, because I live with chronic pain every day and talk about pain, I would say, because my pain, I would say it is mine. And I'm like, no, this isn't my pain. Pain is pain because of this pain or the pain. I don't want to own that. So I want to release having that pain, as that's not a part of me. It doesn't define me. So those couple of things have really changed the way my day goes. But I am going to start waking up saying, I love my life. I love my life. I love my life.
Yeah, and
And
I
I
love the
do, but I
fact that
think,
I love the fact that you do that too, because you're not owning that. You're saying it's pain, but it's not necessary. I love that you're doing that. And you are such an inspiration. I mean, I could ask you the same thing, and I think I will. I mean, how do you get, through your days you've got constant pain from the minute you get up?
yeah, it is. And I think the um, thing that scares me the most, when I get in fear,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not in fear a lot. Like, yes, I get nervous before I go out and speak on stage to 2,000 people, or now I get more nervous when I'm doing a webinar and there's technology, and I used to see people, and now it's just like I'm looking at my face, which is not, I don't really want to do that. I'm like, I want to see people, not like speaking to myself. But when I get in fear, it's not about sharing my message. It's not about getting in front of the people. My fear mostly comes from, oh my goodness, how bad is this pain going to get? Is it going to make my brain foggy? Is it going to make me so sick? Or, is the pain going to get to be so bad that I get nauseated and throw up? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Mm-hmm.
reality for me. And a lot of people that, live with a chronic illness, especially with chronic pain, pain to me is as normal as someone else breathing. Like, I live in it every day. And if I didn't get my mind right,
Mm-hmm.
do things to take care of my body, like yesterday, I had some kombucha drink that had so much sugar in it, I didn't realize it. And that flared me up and made me in more pain. And so I think, getting your mindset right, how you start with your day. I love my life.
Mhm.
I start my day with, mantras, writing in my journal, getting grounded in gratitude. Like those things are so important, because if I feel like I used to just hit the ground running, I would
Mhm.
just get up and go.
Yep.
And I can't do that anymore. I have to give myself enough time to wake up, let my brain wake up, get grounded with my morning routine. And then I'm able to get through the day a lot easier. If my pain gets worse, I can go back to, distraction works. Like if I
Mhm.
stand in one place, it kills me.
Mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
like, I want to keep moving. And you talked about something earlier. You talked about, when you were going through your hard time,
Mhm.
and your son was your inspiration to keep moving forward.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think that's important, whether you're dealing with chronic pain like me or any kind of pain, because we all have pain.
Mhm.
With whatever you're dealing with, is to look at what's your purpose, what is your why, because when we have a purpose and we can be of service, that is what really pulls me out of pain
It
and fear.
totally, totally. That would be, that's the first direction you want to go. If you're feeling sorry for yourself, it's like there's always somebody that has a circumstance that is worse than yours. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah.
and that's what the gratitude list too is just, and for you, it's interesting that you said that you can't do this stuff anymore, Amberly. There's so many things in my life because I was just like you, hit the ground running. All I heard my whole life was, Tina, slow down. And I would say, how am I supposed to slow down? I'm not even getting everything done going at this speed. Okay. But I did have, like with my hand, I had an accident with my hand. And there's, the universe, if it wants you to slow down, it's going to make you slow down. And think about it, Amberly. It's like, that's not what life's about either. It's not about rushing through life. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
had a spiritual coach do this exercise on me once that I want to share really quickly, which I just thought was so profound. And I think that everybody can relate to this. I was on the phone. He says, okay, just walk, just carry me around the house, walk around your house at your normal pace. So I'm walking around at my normal pace. And he's like, okay, so now slow it down a little bit. Now, what do you see? And then slow it down a little bit. And then he got me down. So I felt like I was walking so slow, I could be walking backwards, right?
Hmm.
But what this exercise did was, I wasn't seeing most of things when I was walking at my normal speed. Do you see what I'm saying? How many opportunities are right in front of you? But if you are going too fast or you're just got blinders on, you're going to miss them. And people go, well, nothing's opening up for me. Well, it could be right in front of you, but if you're not present, you're going to miss them. And you're just racing to the next. You're putting your body through like your central nervous system. I mean, mine was like shot, and
Hmm.
I really believe that's one of the reasons that I got cancer, was because I was so stressed out. So, you got to really be careful with that and become more present. And
Yeah, it's
and
interesting that you say that, because I worked with a spiritual coach. I was trying everything to get out of pain, going to the top doctors in the country and spending thousands on medical procedures and Eastern, Western medicine, some, crazy stuff where people would wave wand on over me and cut cords and drip oil, like some crazy witchcraft kind of stuff. Anything when you're in pain and you're like, I just need to get out of pain. But when you said that, it made me think about, there was this one spiritual teacher who said, um, what was your life like when you had your accident? And I said, oh, it was great. My career was booming. My relation, like it was great. I was going at a fast pace. And she said, well, I think that you caused this accident happened because you caused this. You needed to slow down. And I got really angry. I was like, why would I cause a SUV to hit me? Like I was, but then it really made me kind of wake up to everything happens for a reason. And I'm not saying that or would wish that on anyone by any means, but it has taught me to, I mean, my whole TED talk is called The Pace of Pain, and it teaches others and me, because I'm still learning how to
Mhm.
pace through pain. But I think what you said is so important, because we can get caught up in the rat race of life and feel, and I realized for a long time I was like on a hamster wheel. I was just going, 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 but I wasn't
Mhm.
stopping to really enjoy what life had to offer. And so now I really, and I think that's one thing that journaling helps me with. It helps me slow down and appreciate the moments. I was looking back through pictures trying to clear out my phone, and I was like, oh my gosh, I barely remember that book signing, and I barely remember going and getting on that stage. And like everything was just so one thing after another, that I feel like I didn't even get to soak in the excitement of what was going on. And so now, Brandon Burchard, I listened to one of his podcast episodes, and he said something about, you teach people your pace and how fast you want to go. Like if you teach people that, you show them that you're going to get back to an email right away, then they know, oh, okay, well, he's going to get back right away. But if you say, I really don't have the time, I'm going to get to that email within 24 hours, then you teach people that they'll get back to me. It may take 24 hours, but they'll get back. And so we fill our own plates. And I
Mhm.
remember that
Mhm.
all the time. Like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I have a full plate. I'm doing so much and I'm overwhelmed. And I'm like, but I'm the one who filled that plate.
Exactly.
So it's up to us to go, okay, wait, what is healthy? How can I keep a healthy mental, state of mind and keep my body healthy?
Mhm.
Um, and let's talk about your cancer. So how you were diagnosed with cancer and what that felt like, and how you got through those moments.
Yeah, I had just finished The Domino Effect, Fear versus Faith. It was already back from the editor. It was ready to go. And I said I have to include this in my book. And I write it in my book. I remember staring out. I was on the phone with my doctor, and he told me he said, I really don't want to tell you this on the phone, but I had called and said, and he was so sweet. And I was staring out the window and I hung up the phone. And I remember I didn't feel scared. I felt sad. I never once said, why me? It was just, I felt a sadness. And I really don't even know where that sadness came from, to be honest with you. But I was filled with faith. And I said, just what you said. My mom always taught me to believe that everything happens for a reason. And I had gotten this point in my life, especially I just wrote this book. Okay. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm not going to say, do this and I believe in this and then do the opposite. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
here I am writing this book about faith and you basically, I do believe, this is kind of piggybacking on what you just said. I believe you do ask for everything in life in order to shape you, to get you to where you really truly want to go. Now, maybe the motorcycle accident for you, maybe you would have put a different scenario, but you still ask to be into this state where you can help people from a much different level, Amberly, than you could before the accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel the same way about my cancer. And I was filled with faith. My doctor suggested that I do radiation and then to follow up with a drug called tamoxifen. And it just did not resonate with me. And everybody thought I was out of my mind for not doing this. And 3 books came to me, because you know what, when you're really open and you're searching and you're kind of like, show me, universe, show me, what do I need to know? I read 3 books. One of them was The pH Miracle, which is the alkaline diet. And then one was Dr. Stephen Gundry's book. And then the other one was Suzanne Summers' book, Knockout.
Wow.
And that gave me more reinforcement to go, no, this is not right. And I went on the alkaline diet and I started drinking the water. And I read up on tamoxifen. The first two sentences said it's a carcinogen. I said, now why would I do? Then I got on to a path. Started reading all of Kevin Trudeau's books about how he used to be on the big pharma side. And, I don't want to go too much into that because we could talk about that forever. But I do believe that a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs, I mean, they harm you more than they help you. And so I was willing to take a chance, and I did. And, that was in 2011, and it's not returned. And I'm so grateful that I didn't do that to my body, because that is, I was just having this conversation the other day. I said, people that, do undergo chemo or radiation. And I'm not saying, there's one size fits all. Okay. But it does take a toll on your body. And I think what a lot of people miss, I mean, if there's other options available to you, it's up to you to research that, because, a lot of in the end, a lot of this can take your life, and people don't put it together because it's years later, but it compromises your immune system. So if you catch something 10 years later, they never trace it back to the fact that you had chemo or you had radiation. And that's what caused your immune system to deteriorate or be compromised.
And I couldn't agree more that it's not everyone's the same. And it's the same for me living with complex regional pain syndrome. What works for me may not work for someone else's pain. I've tried everything, and I tried, well, at one time I was on 73, I counted them out, 73 homeopathic pills a day. And I was on 11 prescription medications, and I was like, I'm done. I just stopped taking everything, like everything. And then I could gradually see, okay, well, what are my next steps? Maybe. And so for me, mine is what I put, like you, what I put in my body, what I drink, like I cut out alcohol, cut out sugar, although if I have it occasionally, I feel it in my body. And I think sugar is the devil. And I think that it's addictive. It's one of the biggest addictions that no one talks about. And so I just love that you were your own advocate. You listened to the doctors, but you did your own research. And I think that's what we have to do no matter what, is be your own advocate and do what's best for you. And how did you get through that sadness though? When you were feeling sad, what did you do to overcome that?
I got into action. I got into action, and that's was starting to do the research, starting to learn about this, learn about the disease, learn about pros and cons of not doing it and the risks I have. And I think the worst thing I've done to myself in this lifetime is spend too much time contemplating and being in a place of paralysis because I'm in such fear. I mean, I could sit there for days, weeks, months, not anymore. But I mean, that's because the longer you sit with it, the bigger it goes. That fear, it gets bigger and bigger. Any fear, the minute you look at it, and you start facing it, it's not as terrifying as if you sit with it. It just gets bigger and bigger. And, if you understand that this is all an assignment, do you know what I mean? This is how we grow. If we're not faced with any uncomfortableness or any fear, I mean, really, Amberly, how are we going to grow? Because when we're comfortable, I'm not moving. Are you? I'm comfortable. I'm sitting right here, right? It's like, So that's part of the program. And I tell all my clients, I said, lean into it and, don't resist it. Trust me. I used to resist it, and what resists will persist, right? And if you lean into it and embrace it, knowing that you're going to get through on the other side a better and more empowered version of yourself, that's what keeps, as you say, like, your grit to keep going, right? To keep moving through it. I mean, and that's, again, what we're really asking for. We're asking to be a better version of ourselves, but, you have to. And then, in my book, I also, one of the principles is I say, face one fear daily. It doesn't have to be a huge one, like jumping out of an airplane or, even if it's like, oh, I don't really want to call that person. It's going to be an uncomfortable, conversation, whatever it is. If you face one fear daily, you have less to be afraid about. And I think that this is the main disease in our world today is fear. We get trapped behind the fear and then we just can't do anything. And, seriously, and we are just so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And that's where the God comes in. Have a talk with God. What do I do? You're confused. Your relationship with God, that's what meditation's for. That's what your journaling's for,
Oh, and whenever I'm in fear or I don't feel like I know the answer to a question, I pray on it before I go to bed. I really pray on it. And when I wake up, I know the answer. It comes to me. I just right away, the first thing I think about, sometimes it surprises me what the answer is, but I know the answer. And, in those moments where I've been in fear or sad or really in a lot of pain, I used to isolate, and that
Yes.
really,
Yes.
and I felt like I'm the only one going through this and no
Mhm.
one understands. And I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, for me anyway, it's easy to isolate even through my work because I can get so in this bubble of right now, being on Zoom all day with clients or webinars or interviews. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, it sometimes is really hard to juggle everything with, virtual school, being the lunch lady, spending time with my daughter, making sure I take time to exercise, getting social media. I mean,
Mhm.
creating a post and keeping up with comments. That can be kind of difficult. And sometimes I feel like isolating. And one of the things that I think really helps is to do what you said, like to reach out to somebody, to call someone, even if I'm feeling like, oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to send an email to that person, that I might be turned down. And
Yeah.
if I don't ask, I never know. You never know.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And that's the only regret. That's regret is what you don't do, what you don't reach out for, right? Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
Amberly, I want to say one thing too about the power of prayer that just blew my mind recently. And I think that everybody's can relate to this, whatever experience you're going through, because this just illustrates God, the universe. Okay. Because we like to put ourselves in this box and go, well, if it doesn't relate to our five senses, it doesn't exist. Right. That's why a lot of people don't turn to God or turn to the universe. And I used to smoke cigarettes and I put them down for 17 years. And then when I was going through all this, I had a boyfriend that was smoking. And, I'm like, I'll never go back to smoking, only just have a hit. You know what I mean? I was just, sure enough, then I went through this and I was smoking every day. I mean, I was
Mm.
waking up to it. I mean, full blown again, right? And I've been struggling with it. I'd pick it up, I'd put it down, I'd pick it up, and I'm just going, I cannot do this anymore. And I just prayed over this, and I said, I can't, and every time I'd relapse, it was even worse because it tells your psyche, I'm never going to be able to do this. Do you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? The more you try and do something, and then you don't succeed, you create this doubt in your mind, like I'm just not capable of doing it. And then of course, the society is backing
And
you up.
shame comes along with
Oh,
that.
shame and guilt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And society backs you up going, oh, well, it's the hardest thing to quit. It's harder than heroin to quit. So that kind of keeps you stuck in it,
Mm-hmm.
or it validates why you haven't gotten, and I was going to go to hypnotherapy. Anyway, I prayed over it. And like magic, the desire was lifted. And it's been 5 weeks now. And I'm
Wow.
not white knuckling it. It's gone. When I'm telling you it's gone, it's gone.
That's
And I'm not saying it
amazing.
hasn't entered my mind. I haven't had a craving, but this is what I think. I go, man, I would be so upset with myself if I picked up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've come this far. It's, a little bump in the road. It's not like I can't live without it. So anyways, pray over things that you feel like you can't control. And trust me, you will get the power if you really believe it to come.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
Because I know there's probably a lot of closet smokers out there. I
Yep.
mean, I was a closet drinker, and
Mhm.
the only thing that lifted my obsession for drinking, I've been sober now for 4.5 years, was God. I prayed,
Mhm.
and it was miraculous how, and along with a lot of work that still goes into my recovery,
Yep.
and the tribe I call my God squad, that we get together and we, share
So
what.
important.
Yeah, it's so
So we were
important.
talking about that. So important to have your tribe, right?
Hmm.
So not just people, I mean, people that you really like can talk, deeply with, that can understand that it's a safe place to fall, not just, you know, shooting the shit about nothing.
Yeah, and you know what? That's so true. And I think when you are honest and authentic, that is when you find your like-minded soul
Yeah.
sisters, or your tribe is
Yep.
when. And so, I mean, I'm so grateful for you. You and I connected, and every time we talk, we're like, oh, let me connect you with this person. Let me do
Yeah.
this. Let me, oh, I'm going to share your show. And that's what it's all about, as reaching out and connecting like that. I love that you have your 9 daily principles, and you've talked about a couple. Can you share just a few more?
Sure. Order is very, very important. I share about order. You can't. There was a quote I heard a long time ago, like messy house or messy desk, messy mind. It's very true. If you have clutter, if all your space, your living space, wherever you're surrounding yourself, your environment is cluttered, your mind's going to be cluttered. Okay. And what happens when you feel cluttered? You feel confused. I mean, you're just making it much harder on yourself, so you want your space, your environment to be cleared. Take it to another step is like inspiring quotes, and everywhere you look. I interviewed Brian Breach, and he
Oh,
was
I
amazing.
love Brian. He's on the True Grit and Grace show too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
But
he's
didn't
awesome.
he shared that, like, wherever he looks in his place, or he'll look at a painting and that's inspiring because it brings a story to mind, or he's got, just quotes around the house. I mean, for me, if I'm going through something difficult, I'll put post-its around just wherever I can see it frequently throughout the day, again, to go into my
Oh
subconscious
yeah, you
mind.
should see my yeah, I've got something over my desk that says you've got this. My business cards even say you got this. Then I have, inspiring things and affirmations, and a stack of my favorite books. And so I do the same thing, and I think it's
Yeah.
so important. And I've got post-it notes as
Yes.
well. And I'm the same. I like having a nice place to work. But I don't know if you do this, when I start sometimes to get stressed or overwhelmed, or I find myself in my closet rearranging and cleaning out my closet, and I have to stop myself and say, okay, wait a minute. What's really going on? Why am
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
cleaning out and rearranging my closet? What needs to be rearranged in my life instead
Mm-hmm.
of my closet?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of a coping thing I noticed I'll do. And so a lot of times I'm like, okay, wait, I don't need to be, cleaning off, dusting my shoes in my closet. I need to be taking action steps on building that next course instead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important to have that clean desk, have clarity. I even write out what my intentions are for the day, what my goals are. I think that's, if we write things out, then we can take action steps
Yeah,
to reach our
absolutely.
goals.
Yeah. You know what? It boils down to one thing, Amberly. It boils down to honoring yourself. It really boils down to honoring yourself. And that was the talking to myself that I gave myself with the smoking, because I was looking at it's like it's a reward at the end of the day. Oh,
Uh-huh.
you know, and it's not a reward. I'm hurting myself. You really have to start questioning your behaviors, and it's really honoring yourself. What are you putting in your head? What are you putting in your mouth? What are you putting on your body? Everything. I mean, going
Mhm.
in your closet, maybe you needed to clean out your closet so you can put on clothes that make you feel better. I don't know, because, you and I, we can get into like, if it's not about work and it's not about being productive, then that's a waste of time. Well, no, it's all about balance too, right? Because your soul and your spirit need things other than work, work, work. Like we were talking about, I said, I'm taking myself away for 4 days. My spirit needs to play and have fun and be in a different environment and surrounded by just beautiful vineyards and Central Coast. And that's where I'm going. And I'm honoring that. I could say I've got too much to do, but you know what? I know that I'm going to reset. And when I come back, it's going to be like a clean canvas, and I'm going to like go at it with even more energy and passion and enthusiasm than I am right now.
And I think I'm so happy you brought that up. I mean, my post that I did today was all about mom guilt and balance
Mm.
and what's really important in life. I got in bed last night with my daughter, and we have our cuddle time, and we have time where we talk about what was the best thing that happened today and what is one thing you're grateful for. So we kind of end our day with gratitude as well. And so she rolled over and she said, "Mom, I need attention." And I was
Mm.
like, "Oh, I've been working a lot," which is, it's easy to become a workaholic when you love your work and when your office is now in your home. So it's really creating that balance and the boundaries. And, I came downstairs one day and I was on my phone doing something, and Ruby was like, "Come on, let's go for a scooter ride." And I said, "Ruby, I'm working right now. I got to get this done." And she goes, "Well, if you're working, go in your office." And I was like, "Ooh, good point there. You got Missy."
Ah.
And so I feel like we learn so much from our children. She taught me, she said, "I need attention." And so instead of, having that mom guilt, I'm like, I am not going to let my guilt rob my joy. Instead, I'm just going to spend some time with her.
You asked the question. Don't
Yep,
ask the question if you don't want to hear the answer. And let me tell you
exactly.
something, I'm a single mom, Amberly, and it's like I've had that and truly, how old's your daughter?
12.
12. Okay. So my son is almost 17. When she becomes 16, 17, she's driving and stuff, and you hardly ever see her. There's going to be a pain in your heart going, it's really over. I mean,
Well, I have a
he's going to
25
be,
year old.
huh?
So I have a 25-year-old,
Oh, that's
so I
right. So you've
know
already been
I
through it,
know that
right?
day is coming. So that's why I am like soaking in all the moments that I
Right.
have
So
with her
maybe
and the
maybe you need to
cuddles.
hire some help, delegate,
Hmm.
time to delegate, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know
Just to
what? For
create that
people like you and
balance.
I, that's a challenge.
Hmm.
But you know what? You don't want to like put your head in the sand when it comes to your family or things that are important to you.
Yeah, and it's so true. You ask and you get the answer, and it's what I needed to hear. And so this morning I did delegate. I've hired someone who's amazing to work alongside me. And it's scary when you're like, "Okay, here are all my passwords." And this morning I actually told her, I was like, "I have a really crazy day." And I said, "I need your help. Can you go through my emails?" And that's a huge growing experience for me to turn it over. Like, okay, I'm delegating, I'm turning that over, and I got to trust that everything's going to be okay. It takes a lot of trust.
Hmm.
But if I want to have time with my daughter
Hmm.
and be the lunch lady and help her with homework,
Hmm.
that's and be a working mom, that's what you have to do.
That's what you have to do. And it's temporary. It's temporary, Amberly. You know that. Do you know what I mean? It's not forever,
Hmm.
you
And
know.
one thing my husband's really good about is not reminding me not to take things too seriously and to
Mhm.
enjoy life more.
Yes, exactly.
And have fun. Like, don't get so, when I look back at things I'm doing, I'm like, why was I so nervous and worked up about that thing that I had to do? I could have just had fun instead. Like, choose joy.
How about enjoying the process? Okay.
Uh-huh.
This is something I got to remind myself all the time. When I get there, I'll be able to relax a little bit more. When
Then
I
you'll
get,
always be chasing.
you always do it because you know what? I am there where I
Mhm.
was striving to be a year ago. Have I slowed down? No, if anything, I'm stepping on the gas even more. But you know what? No, it's like, that's why I think it's really important. Time blocking is really important. That's helped me
Mhm.
a lot, Amberly. It's like, this is the time for work. This is the time I'm, my downtime. This is the time for my son. This is the time I get on the phone with my best girlfriend at the end of the day to like kind of recap the day and connect. And yeah, that I think it's otherwise the day really can get away from you. So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a
time block.
balancing act. I
It
mean,
is. It
it's
is.
really, it is. I mean, that is probably living in the gray is probably the most difficult. It's very easy to live in white or black, but living in the gray. But you know what? The first step is always awareness. Okay. So being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your self-talk, and and seeing what's in front of you. How's your life? There's a saying, if you don't like what your life looks like, start paying attention to what you're thinking,
Mhm.
right?
And to the people that you're surrounding yourself
And
with.
oh, definitely, because I went through that. I shared that with you. This year I had to cut out 6 people that were like my inner circle, where I was left with, I left myself with one, and that was, it was a process because I was like, what? I go to pick up the phone. I'm like, oh no, I'm not talking to that person anymore. And then what happened? That there's cliches for a reason. When God closes one door, He opens another one. It took a while because I think God, the universe, wanted me to sit and just be with myself for a while. And now, like you, I mean, the doors are opening to the tribe that my soul has been calling, and that, I have no hatred, no anger, nothing to the people that I'm no longer, involved with. I just, our energies didn't match anymore. We weren't going the same place anymore,
Mhm.
and you just recognize that for what it is. And I think a lot of people do this. They stay in a relationship where it's not suited for them anymore. They hang around the same people because it's familiar, and then they wonder why they're not growing, and why their life is not moving forward. you
Mhm.
know yeah, the people is exactly.
And it's so true, we grow and evolve, and sometimes other people stay in a stuck
Yes,
almost, and
yes.
I want to keep growing and evolving. I want to just keep that's to me, I love learning and growing. And you get resistance when you have people that you're not hanging out with anymore. They might try to make you feel bad. I had one.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
that does. If you're moving forward, I mean, think about it. I've been there. If somebody was moving forward and I wasn't doing the work to move forward, I'd rather spend my energy talking badly about them. I'm just being transparent. I'd find every reason to make them wrong and me right. And you could just take that energy and put it into yourself and do what they're doing. There's also a saying, if you're not willing to do what that other person did to get there, then shut your mouth, no matter what it is. Right. So
Mhm.
it's true. So, but you can't be pitiful and powerful at the same time. Joyce Meyer. I love that saying.
Oh, I love her. You
I do
can't
too.
be
I do too. I listen
pitiful
to her
and
this morning.
powerful at the same time. Well, I always say you get to choose. You can either be the victim or you can be the victor.
Love it.
And you know
Exactly.
what? I think we need to choose to be the victor. And I think so many of the tips that you have shared are it's so helpful. Thank
Oh,
you so much.
my pleasure. That's what I'm
I
here for.
just adore you, and I love every time I get to talk to you. And I love your book. I've got highlighted parts highlighted and pages. Then tell people where they can find your book and reach out to you.
Okay, my book's on Amazon. So the name of the book is The Domino Effect, Fear versus Faith. And best way, you can go to my website, but email would probably be the best. Tina Marx, with an X, TV@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And if you're, out doing cardio or something and Can't write that down. Don't worry. This will be in the show notes. You can see, have her information in the show notes. And you know what? Watch her Instagram too at Tina
Yeah.
Marx on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yes. I'm having Amberly on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You're on. You're just waiting. That was the person I said I fired over the weekend and then rehired over the weekend was my video editor. So it's a little backed up, but I think you're like fourth in the queue. So I think in the next 2 weeks or so, it's going to be released. But I'll be promoting it on my Instagram, which is Tina Marx, Marx. You can follow me there, and my YouTube channel is Tina Marx TV as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I know
Thank
you have a client coming up
I
right now, so I was trying to be very careful with the time. I just
Hey, you know what?
appreciate you.
Speaking of Instagram, do you mind if I take a picture? Remember when you did that last time? I love that. Because,
Let's
I
do
don't
it.
know, but, my social media team's always like, you got to get all these stories up. You got to get all these stories up. I'm like, what am I? Okay, so ready?
Thanks.